So positive thinking is transformative, but getting there can seem like an impossible task, especially when you're being constantly attacked. So hello everybody, I'm Sherry Palmer with Fixed Family Courts, and I wanted to jump on and see how you are doing today. Did you wake up anxious or frustrated, full of dread, not feeling those hopeful feelings that you thought you would feel today? Jump out of bed and say, yay, it's a new year. Let's go for it. So if you didn't feel that and instead felt dread or maybe even betrayed, I woke up feeling betrayed actually. We won't go into why. But not everyone wakes up in a new year feeling renewed and ready to go, do they? You might be feeling anxious or frustrated, or maybe you woke up feeling like I did this morning. So if you're feeling betrayed and you can't seem to get started like you had hoped, let's look at things a little differently. I think we put way too much pressure on ourselves, especially the first day of the new year. I know, I get it because I have deadlines and I have tons of things that I piled onto my schedule, and everything to me was important, right? And when I was going through this, when I had court dates looming or needed to do something that was coming up urgently, and the pressure just kept piling on, and it just felt inevitable that I had to do it all right now. Okay, true, but overwhelming yourself is not going to get you there. It doesn't help to get you prepared. So I think the reason so many resolutions fail is because we do this piling on. We build up at the end of the year and we put all this pressure onto ourselves. And I personally don't set resolutions. And I'm looking around, you guys, because I'm actually streaming this live on Facebook and YouTube on separate units. So, and hopefully you can all hear me. But we fail at these resolutions because of this piling on and this building up. So I have goals, of course, that I set, but they don't restart because the new year restarts. They just are ongoing. So I don't base things on the time of year. So if we can agree that a new year may sound like a nice starting place, it shouldn't be the time bomb in your life. Literally, there are people, especially people in marketing, who watch that ball in New York fall, and as soon as it touches, bam, they take off like they're running a race. We don't need to live our life like that. So today, let's talk about taking it slow and taking the right steps so that you actually get where you need to be this year. So if you map out where you want to go, you can get there. And we're going to help with that. So first, we're going to talk about reprogramming. Okay. I know you've all heard of it, but we're gonna talk about it a little differently. Reprogramming and reconditioning your mind and making new habits. Not because it's a new year, but because it's a healthy and it's a good thing to do. Oh, and I hope I didn't just trigger you on that, because healthy and good, I know my husband, Ron Palmer, you guys might know him. You say those words, and for some people, those are bad triggers. Ew, yuck, it's healthy food, get away from me. It's something good, I don't want it. We won't go into why they might have those feelings. We're not here to analyze you or analyze them, but it could be a trigger for you. So what's happening when these things go into your mind? They are negative thoughts. They become negative thoughts, even if they're positive to somebody else. It doesn't matter. If it's negative to you, then it's negative, okay? So we're accepting that. And what we're going to do is look at whether or not we're giving those negative ideas and those negative thoughts that are happening to you more weight than the positive thoughts, right? Because whatever you give attention to and whatever you put your weight in, that's what your mind is going to use. That's what it's going to seal into your brain. And when you hit those triggers, that's what will come back up: negativity. So if you're feeling lost or helpless or dependent on an attorney, which makes you eager and spend all day long on the phones trying to find somebody else to do it for you, that's why, that's how it's happening. So you are going to learn today how to replace those negative thoughts with positive things. Okay? Perhaps you're thinking right now, there aren't any. There's nothing positive about what I'm going through. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here then. You are exactly who I'm talking to. Do you have constant recurring negative thoughts giving you anxiety and giving that anxiety more life and more power? Do you keep replaying the negative thoughts? Okay, so they're constantly recurring. Are you giving that anxiety, repeating it, more life and more power? Do you keep replaying those negative thoughts? So if you keep those thoughts replaying, you're going to develop PTSD. Those are the outcomes you get when you keep replaying the same negative stuff and you keep letting your brain get out of control. Sure, a judge might be in control over a lot of things in your life right now. The judge is in control over what they put in the orders, but you are in control over what you dwell on and how you address it, right? So if you keep giving these negative thoughts more weight than the positive ones, you're going to seal those into your mind, and your body is going to physically react to those things. That won't be in your control anymore, right? Whether you get sick, whether you develop the PTSD, that's not going to be in your control. Those are chemicals that flow throughout your body because of the things you put into your brain. So if you keep obsessing over those things, you will actually condition yourself to live in that state of being. Some people live in drama, right? They like to gossip. Some people live in their fantasy world. So whatever it is, you are conditioning yourself to live like that. But you can actually use these habits and triggers that your brain is already using. I taught a video on habits a long time ago, several years back actually, where I teach you how to use the court habits to your advantage. Go back and watch that. I'll plug it in on at the top of this video after we're done. Okay, so watch that video too. And since you now know you're in charge of your brain's programming and it's already following these patterns, then, and you know that it's because you're replaying the negative and traumatic things that happened to you in court, right? You know you can replace them. So ask yourself before we get into the next step, what traumatic thing is your brain replaying right now? So you might want to comment there just so I know where you're at. Like what is something that you woke up or you're thinking about that you need to do or that's affecting how you feel, whatever's making you feel something today. Okay, comment on there. And so what I'm going to teach you is how to stop replaying the negative thoughts and how you do that. So first, you have to catch yourself doing it, right? Which means you have to notice it. Okay? That means you have to feel it. That was a hard one for me. I didn't want to feel things when I was going through the terrible family court BS, right? Who wants to feel any of that? So that's the really tough part right there. You're going to have to let yourself feel it. So first you have to notice it. You have to be aware that it's happening. Okay? So instead of protecting yourself from it, you're going to let yourself feel it. Let those feelings bubble up. Identify that you're having a negative thought. Bring it into your consciousness, because what's happening is all those have become routines. So they're in your subconscious. They're in your unconsciousness even, right? You might not be sleeping well. That's part of the issue. So next, identify what the negative thought is about. And I asked you that a little earlier, so we kind of jumped ahead. We were thinking about what is the negative thought about? Now, I'm not asking you to try to figure out why you're having them if you're not sure, or even to analyze that, okay? And this might sound redundant, but it's not. So sometimes we feel bad, but we don't know why. And we can't really pinpoint exactly. It might be something that came out of the last hearing that you had, right? Like a bad result you got in the last hearing. You're probably replaying that last hearing a lot. It might be the lies that were told when you were there, and it might be the judge buying into the lies that put you into shock, or your disbelief that your ex was even spilling, things that you trusted them with, right? So you're feeling betrayed, like I said earlier, or maybe feeling helpless because you felt like your attorney should have protected you better. So you're replaying, how could they have done things better? What could you have done differently? So maybe you're replaying all of these things, or maybe a neighbor jumped in and testified and you didn't expect that. So again, everything was completely out of whack and everything felt wrong, and or taken out of context. Okay, we get it. Your brain gets it. So the question you would ask yourself to identify is these negative thoughts, right? What are you thinking about when you think about that last hearing? Okay, so can all of you guys work on that? I know it's a lot to ask when you don't want to think about it again and you've got bad things that happen. And if it's not about a hearing, are you thinking about the pleadings, the affidavit that your ex filed? Are you worried that your discovery responses might not be exactly right? Or maybe it's something a gal report was, came out with, or an amicus, or some kind of custody eval, or maybe CPS is making comments about your parenting, negative parenting, right? So whatever it is that's bothering you. So this exercise is to get you ready to start envisioning the positive outcomes, to start focusing on things that get you to those positive outcomes. Why are we doing this? Because you cannot possibly start to learn any of the stuff that we teach, the rights, the details, the legal terminology, the process that you have to go through to implement it, to integrate it. You cannot even, you don't have room in your brain, literally, to start getting that in there, to start absorbing it if you don't go through these exercises. Okay, you just get more overwhelmed. It just stresses you out more. And then you don't see the paths. You don't see what to do like you should, because there are some things that automatically happen that aren't happening. So this will help you accomplish that. So you're going to envision the positive outcomes. Once we get to that point, you're going to start focusing on things that get you positive outcomes, right? How do you do that? You're going to train your brain to think more intentionally. So you're going to master the psychology in your own mind. So I'm going to give you some simple, easy steps you can incorporate into your life, and you can start using today to better manage your mind. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. These are methods that lots of experts in the fields of coaching and counseling and other areas of life improvement that are used in these top experts and in their fields every day. So if you want to leverage the power of your rights, or the power that your rights give you, then you have to get your mind right to be able to learn them, use them, and also to be able to take the punishment you might encounter for daring to stand up for yourself. So you have to start paying attention to these things that you might have been ignoring, or you might have been using in ways that have not been helping you, like spinning around in Facebook groups, looking for others to give you the answers, trying to find an attorney to do it for you, or spending all of your time in disappointment and listening to others commiserate with you. That time you're spending doing all of that could be time spent on accomplishing the outcomes that you really want. So in order to take control of your day, you have to take control of how you spend your time, where you put your attention. For instance, where were your thoughts before you jumped on here, before you jumped onto this video with me? So make a comment there so I can see, and I'm looking to see, I'm not seeing the comments, but it might be on the wrong screen. So are your thoughts supporting you? Okay, and advancing your life, or are they just using up your day? So rule number one is pay attention to your thoughts. Be aware of what is going on in your mind and in your body. You might be avoiding paying attention because you're in pain so much and so many negative things have happened. So every time you go through something negative, you will have to consciously think about a positive. You'll have to redirect. So it's not going to be automatic right away. You're going to have to redirect it. But what will you redirect it to? Where do you redirect it to? This is where we come in. You have to have somewhere for your brain to go. Yes, this means leveraging something. What are you feeding your brain to help it, to give it something positive, to redirect it in a positive direction so you can get the outcomes you want? For instance, if you know that the First Amendment protects you from having to get along with your ex, and it protects your lawful parenting choices, regardless of whether or not the two of you agree, or if it protects you from making a decision different from the judge makes. Okay, guys, hang on real quick. I just got to send a message here. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had to send a message. So we were on the First Amendment. So if you know that the First Amendment protects your association with your child, and it protects you with the decisions, the lawful decisions you make about your child, you can basically tell the judge to shove it. Well, not exactly in those words. Let's do it in a more proper way, of course, through leveraging the cases that you've learned and knowing how and why they apply to you. This is why judges get so irritated, because they're like, I'm here to tell you what to do, and you're asking me to tell you what to do. And you're like, no, no, no. I'm not actually asking you that. I'm asking you for protection, and here's why. And they're in patterns too, aren't they? They're in patterns that you're trying to break, and they don't know this. They're not working on this like you are. So what's another example? Another example of redirecting your mind to remembering that would be remembering nobody's opinion of your parenting styles are sufficient to justify or authorize the court to interfere with your rights and your decisions, even if they don't like your decisions. Again, as long as they're lawful, right? So those of you that are learning our material, you know the key words there that I've been using, right? You can probably post some of them there. So are you seeing how that works? So even if the court does the wrong thing, you know the right thing to direct your brain back to. That's the benefit you get when you learn about your rights. Okay? So eventually the right information and the positive things do become automatic, and you don't have to spend as much effort doing this. But doing this will actually keep you from embedding and imprinting the bad practices and those bad thoughts and those negative things that they're trying to get into your brain and prevent you from inadvertently adopting their beliefs, okay? Getting these positive things and this information and making the information accessible to you. And the only way you can make this information accessible is to start reading what we write and to start watching the videos so the information is available to you. You can't just carry the book around and expect it to just pop into your head. Unfortunately, sleeping on top of the books don't work either. I've tried it. Okay. Especially when I had to work 3 jobs when I was a teenager just to survive and was just extremely exhausted, I'd put those books under my pillow. So it didn't work. So we teach a lot about this in our reframing exercises that we're going to be putting up into our membership site. So when the other side tells you or tells the court that you should be doing or what you should be doing and why, you're there, and what they're asking them to do, like, Your Honor, these two don't get along, and so I'm asking you to make the decisions because unfortunately they can't make decisions regarding your child anymore, then you want to correct that, right? You're going to reframe that. So you're going to look up the reframing lesson and you're going to put that information in your brain so you can default to that. And when you have somewhere to default to, you don't feel as hopeless or helpless either anymore. And that gets that positive cycle churning and gets those chemicals, the right chemicals in your brain. So now you know what to do, and learning what we teach will keep their ideas out of your head and prevent them from weakening you and taking advantage of you. So let's review. And we're going to go into some more stuff. So don't jump off here. I just want to review those few things just to make it clear because I threw stuff in between. So 1, you're going to pay attention to how you're feeling. You're going to pay attention to what you are thinking. And you're going to analyze it. And if it's negative, then it's not supporting the outcome you want. You're going to redirect it. And you don't need to write all this down. I'll put it up in a blog post and you can copy all of these steps. Okay. And 2, let's finish up 1. So 1 was pay attention to how you're feeling. Pay attention to what you're thinking. Analyze it. If it's negative, then it's not supporting the outcome you want. Redirect it. Okay. 2 is redirect it. How do you redirect it? You go back to the topic on that issue in our membership site. It might be in the book. It might be in our videos. It might be in the course topics. Find it and learn it. Okay. And 3, embed the positive thought. So how do you embed it? First, you practice it. You restate the information in your mind over and over again because you've got to have the information before you can visualize using it, right? So every time you have the negative thought, reframe it in your mind with the thought that is positive. And 4, take action. Picture yourself actually using it. We didn't talk about this yet, but we are now. Take action. Picture yourself actually using it, doing it, saying it, using it. So how does it look in your life when you exercise that right? Visualize that over and over again. What do you want your life to be like? What kind of outcome do you want? What are the solutions you're asking the judge to give you? What does that look like in your parenting plan? There are a lot of judges that I hear complain that the parent didn't even propose a parenting plan. I also hear them complain that a lot of dads, they say dads, don't have plans about how they're going to exercise their time with their child. Now, while we may disagree that it's any of their business, really, I'm just telling you some of the things they complain about that you'll want to think about because while you can argue every little thing, there are certain things that just aren't worth arguing, okay? Just put the information, how you want to succeed, what the solutions are, make it easy for the judge to select that option. Okay, so what's some more examples? Let's say a judge says you're working too much on your case and not focusing on working more so you can pay more to support your child. I know that's a big hot button for a lot of you. I know it was for me. They wanted me to pay my ex, and at that time, all I saw my ex was as paying my abuser, right? And we're not going to get into what's abusive, what's not abusive, and I didn't go trying to claim domestic. Okay, so there's lots of pieces here, but and I'm not saying every situation is abusive, but you might be feeling abused no matter what, and that's important, right? It's how you're addressing it that's going to make a difference. You don't want to empower them by making them think you need them to rescue you. You need them to protect your rights. So when the judge says you're working too much on your case, you need to work more to support your child. And they might say you can't be equal because you don't get along, and not getting along is bad for your child, and blah blah blah. And it doesn't work in equal parenting. It doesn't work in an equal parenting plan, that you'll end up right back there. And they might even say the state does not support handling your custody dispute the way you're proposing. So you can try thinking of the situation like this instead. My rights protect me from this judge's idea of what I should be doing, of what is best for my child. I decide what is best for my child and my life, and what kind of relationships I have with my ex or don't have, and what kind of relationships I have with my child, and what protects you to do that. Your First Amendment. And then you would go on to, was I even notified that these decisions, these lawful decisions that I'm making and have been making, and the decision to disagree with my ex, was I notified that there was a law against that? Am I violating a law? Was I informed that this was a law? Okay, if the answer is no, then you didn't receive proper notice. So now you know where to go in our site to get that information. What is proper notice? What cases tell you about it? How do you leverage that? Okay, how do you overcome their lies, their trickery, their BS, the things that they're trying to convince you of? So any of that happened to any of you? So you push that all out of your mind, them telling you that these aren't your rights, or it doesn't work this way. And you know in your mind you didn't receive proper notice, you've been ambushed, you're being lied to. So you just push all their stuff out of your mind, and you don't question your approach again. You know where you stand on the issue. Don't let them move you. They're trying to convince you while you're trying to convince them. Don't let them push you off of where you've decided is right for you. Okay? So you're not going to question whether you should have done that one thing different, made different choices, or changed anything. Nope. You're going to move right back to your rights, protect your choices, and doing this exercise each time would prevent you from going into fear and panic mode. Ultimately, it can prevent you from making the mistake of believing that you should ask for a gal. So do you see where this leads? The more they push and pressure you and pile on and make you doubt yourself, okay, it usually leads to parents thinking they have to ask for a gal, or an attorney telling them that, or you, that you need to ask for a gal. So that's because you go into panic mode. So this will prevent that panic mode. And you won't believe now you should ask for a gal or an amicus, which is a guardian ad litem. For those of you who don't know what a gal is, your mind won't let you be tricked into thinking that you need an expert to evaluate your decisions. So there's another scene that I wanted to tell you guys about from Marriage Story, where a custody evaluator goes into the home of the father, played by Adam Driver, to observe him with his child. And she literally sits there and watches them eat dinner, watches his interactions with him. It's really quite awkward, actually. And so she doesn't really give him any feedback, doesn't really interact with him or anything. And he doesn't know any different, right? The attorneys told them, this is what you need, this is what you need to ask for, so they do. And next thing you know, you see him giving in. They don't tell you about what happened in the report, but you can all pretty much guess, right? He probably got slammed because she did make a couple comments that lead you to understand. And if you've been through it, you know, right? So you wouldn't ask for this. Why? Because you would understand, you would know what rights protect you, and you would know that they're not allowed to force this kind of exploratory search on you, or any kind of investigation, general broad investigation like this. So you might be able to guess, if you have read through any of our materials, what amendments in general protect you, or what amendments protect you from that. So what you might not know is how to use it here. So there you go. Now you know. Now you know, if your mind is going to places that make you dependent on others, you look up the rights that protect you from that. right? So how do you argue that the Fourth Amendment protects you? Okay, so I just gave that one away. How do you argue that the Fourth Amendment protects you? Any of you know? How do you keep that argument alive? Okay, so we teach you all of that. But if you don't have that information, you're going to get stuck because we're not there with you when it's going on. And you're going to end up being pushed into a corner and forever into a dead end, right? Something that may never end. It may go on even after your child becomes the age of an adult. Ask other parents, they'll tell you. It can go on that long. It's that important to learn. Okay? So you don't want that to happen. And because the court isn't going to tell you this, and the attorneys certainly haven't been telling you, in fact, they've been telling you that these only apply to termination suits or criminal cases, right? A lot of these. So seriously, are you letting your brain buy that? Well, good are your rights if they don't apply in civil cases too. Sure, we'll even admit there are certain things that don't apply, like they don't have to give you an attorney just for these custody suits in general, right? They don't have to assign you an attorney for free, like they would if you were being tried for the death penalty for murder, right? So there are certain things, but you need to know what things there are and what things there aren't, so you don't get tricked out of the protections, the rights you are entitled to provide you. So I hope you're starting to see, when you let your brain really think through these things, you find that they're making absolute rubbish and no sense at all. They want you to think you're the one not making any sense. So you take charge. You control your brain and control what it thinks. You decide how much weight you give what they tell you, how much real estate you're going to allow them to inhabit in your brain, how much garbage you're going to let, how much room you're going to let the garbage take up in your brain. Now, those watching should be terrified of ever allowing what Adam Driver and his wife allowed to happen in their case in that Marriage Story movie. I know all of you, if you've been through it, you know exactly the parts I'm talking about. If you haven't, you probably don't even really notice, okay? Because I know the majority of the audience watching that movie isn't actually going to get it, and they're probably going to think it's not going to happen to them until it actually happens to them. But that's a side issue. So back to the point here, you will know better. So if you're watching this and you haven't gone through that yet, I hope you realize what a gold nugget this information is and how much money and stress you just saved just by watching this video. Okay, so to embed redirecting of your brain, make sure before you do anything on your legal case at all that you visualize the positive outcome that you want to achieve and rerun that in your mind over and over and over again. Okay, and once you've got that, now visualize the next steps that you should take. Then picture yourself doing it, taking the action to get you that outcome. Imagine yourself strong, confident, and sure. This will help you become familiar with how you should feel when you're taking these actions. This will help you block out any negativity, also help you recognize the negativity because it's going to feel different now, right? If there's any of you that have tried this too, say yes or no and tell me yes or no if it worked or helped you. So this is going to help you block out the negativity that they try to use to break you down, and you will recover faster, even if you take some blows from them. So this is how you condition your mind, right? This is how you build new habits. Even, like I said, if they beat you up and beat you up, you'll be able to get back up. And you'll be able to recover faster. You build new habits by paying attention. The amount of time you play these court hearings over and over and over again in your head, and the information in your head is time you could be spent on actually retraining your brain, right? I had a counselor tell me once that my anxiety was going to turn into PTSD and that it was the intensity and the duration. So it was the amount of what was going on, the constant, doorbells ringing because I'm being served with something else, emergency hearings. They were constantly filing some kind of discovery request or enforcement, trying to push me to give them everything they wanted, not give me any time to think about it, constantly make something else up. If you got your kids over the holidays, you might be expecting that there's going to be some kind of complaint. Oh my gosh, you didn't give your child that toy they wanted, or you didn't remember to get the batteries. So you're really stressed right now. And that intensity and the length of time that it's gone on leads to PTSD, right? So my counselor told me if the court hearings continue like they are, you're going to get ill. And I'm left thinking, oh my gosh, I left terrified. I knew I didn't have any control over how long these court hearings were going to continue and go on. I felt that appointment actually, though, gave me that jolt that I needed to think about, because I wasn't thinking about those things. I was just thinking I needed to tell somebody what they were doing to me. So after I thought about it for a little while, I knew I didn't have any choice. I needed to take control over what was happening. I couldn't take control over how long things were happening, but I knew that I could change what I was doing in what was happening, right? How I was handling it. So I decided to take charge, no matter what the consequences were. Because I thought about that too. You're scared to put certain things in front of the judge because they threaten to take more away from you, your kids away, cut you off, put you on supervised visits. So that causes you a lot of doubt. But I decided I didn't care what the consequences were going to be. I wasn't about to allow this court to make me sick or to keep hurting my children. And you have to get there. So I decided I was going to push through no matter how hard they tried to make me feel bad, right? So that brings me to the next thing. The thing we brought up at the beginning, feeling. The sensations you get when you're going through it should be reviewed before you face it again. So you can deal with it, process it, and change it. Don't wait until you go through it and go, oh yeah, that's the feeling, let me work on it here in court. You can't do it that way. So after you get in touch with the feeling, then visualize and repeat the visualization. And yes, I'm telling you to revisit after I just told you don't run it over and over and over in your head, but now we're revisiting it with a purpose. Okay, so you're going to use visualization and repetition of the positive alternative to that negative one. So once you get in touch with what the negative one is, then you're going to replace it with some of the information we just told you to go on and learn, right? And visualizing your life and what it's like when those rights are protecting you. So you would kind of picture, all right now I don't have rights and my life sucks and I can't do anything, and I don't get to spend bedtimes with my children as often as I like. So what does life look like when you do? And then remember that feeling and repeat that. That's your positive alternative that you're going to replace with the negative one, even if it's not reality right now. But you have to visualize it to make it reality. Sports players do this all the time. This is how you gain personal power over your mind. It's the attention you pay and how much time you spend on that positive alternative in contrast to the negative treatment that's creating the negative thoughts that gives you personal power. So whenever you're facing a hearing, the next time your mind is going to go right to the negative things in their attacks and the things your ex has said in their affidavit, or whenever, not when, but whenever this is happening to you, and you're going to start thinking about what they've asked in their pleadings, like they've asked for sole custody, supervised visitation. They've asked the judge to order attorney's fees for you to pay their attorney too. So they start piling on to you, and your own thoughts start piling on. And so you're giving them power. You're letting them affect your thoughts because you keep doing what they want you to do. You're giving them weight, you're paying attention to them, and you're worrying about what they're asking for. So ultimately, your mind eventually goes to, how can he or she do this? I can't believe they betrayed me like this. I can't believe that they are not realizing what they're doing is wrong. Well, they're not going to realize it. Don't hold your breath for it. There's way too many incentives and benefit for them to keep doing it. So that's a losing path. Your outcome means you lose by staying on that path. That feeling of betrayal sneaks in because it's embedded in your mind right now. Okay? It's familiar. It's easy for your brain to shift back to it. It's also easier for you to think about it rather than thinking about getting out of this. So every time you find yourself dwelling on how could they do it, what are they thinking, why, what did I do, you catch yourself and immediately stop and disrupt that pattern, right? My mom used to have me snap a rubber band on my wrist, so you might want to wear a rubber band. Hey, get one of those parental alienation ones, okay? Not snapping it to hurt you, just to get your attention. Say, stop it. Stop that negative thought. So you're not going to dwell on it. You're not going to say, what did I do? You're not going to blame yourself. Immediately disrupt them, okay? And ask yourself, do I want to give these thoughts more time and focus? Do these thoughts take me to the outcome that I want to achieve? The outcome I desire. If they don't, you refocus, you replace it with the positive exercises we just went over. And then you're going to force your brain to redirect it. So right now, yes, it's forcing because it's not automatic. The automatic stuff is the stuff that's stressing you out, okay? So many of you have successful careers, right? You're doctors and nurses, and some of you even attorneys. You might not be a family law attorney, maybe another kind. How did you get there? Did you get there by letting your mind just be influenced by misdirection or allowing it to be undirected or by going through life unconsciously? No. You made intentional, conscious decisions, and that is how you successfully got your degree. Why would you handle this any different? Right? You've thought enough about what they pled and what they wrote, and we've talked a lot about it, and I know you've thought a lot about it, or you wouldn't be here right now. So let's start thinking about something else. If you keep thinking about the negative things, it's going to condition you to keep bringing it up. And these courts and people working in them know this. So they are using you. They use what you have sealed in your brain. They trigger it. They take advantage of it. They keep you helpless, broken, dependent, spending money on their friends. If this is no longer working for you, then let's change it. Invest in yourself. Okay? So this all starts with what? Noticing what you're thinking about, catching yourself and disrupting it. So you have to train yourself, okay? But I'm giving you the keys right here. So once you recognize what's triggering your brain and how to resolve all this, you're not going to fall into those patterns anymore, right? But you have to train yourself so opposing counsel can't affect you in these ways, or the judge or the gal or the amicus. So whoever's working against you to take advantage of you, if you don't want them controlling your brain, you're going to have to work on getting control of your own control center. So I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself every day. So here's the part where I said, wait till the end. Put them where you'll wake up and read them first thing. So you might want to write these down, but you don't have to. You can get them from the blog later. Number 1, what can I do to improve my life today? Number 2, what am I thinking about right now? And number 3, what do I want to feel? Then write 3 words down that describe yourself, just to remind you who you are, who you want to be. Okay, so my 3 are committed, capable, and motivated. Okay, so write 3 words down about yourself. You don't have to do all this right now. You can do it later. But write those down, put them on your mirror, put them in your phone. Remind yourself, revisit them several times a day. Some experts in the field, they'll recommend, revisiting 3 times, like in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. Some people will call them affirmations. I don't like that either, because then I just don't do it. So this is just more like my to-do list, and just reminding me to track how my brain is feeling. Okay. So write those down, and then write your 3 simple tasks for each day to make progress in learning your parental rights. Here's another example for you, and I'm going to give you 3 examples of simple tasks. So in case you didn't write some of your own, or if you didn't see the video that I made on it, kind of think of what I'm giving you as kindling for the fire. Yours don't have to be exactly the same as what I'm giving you, okay? So the 3 simple tasks might be: 1, get up and make a cup of coffee or tea to force you to wake up. Number 2, read 1 page in one of our books. I don't care which one, just 1 page. Don't go further, don't overwhelm yourself. 3, listen to 10 minutes of the audiobook or watch 10 minutes of one of our videos. That's it, 10 minutes. And then I want you to think about what you read, what you listened to, what you watched, and how does it relate to you? How did it make you feel? What did it make you think about? Positive or negative things? Which one was it? What can you take away from what you read? Is there something in what you read that reminds you of something you've gone through? How about something you're now aware of that you weren't aware of before? So maybe note down something you learned. And then tell yourself you're learning, and every bit of this learning puts you more in control over your life, in control of your control center, and in control of the outcome. And write down the positive things you can think about to counter the negative. So if a negative thing comes into your mind, write down a positive thing. And after you've done all this, and if you're really ready to go bold, let's add a few things you can add in for your after dinner routine. So 1, you're going to repeat those 3 steps, but you're going to add, read 1 page of your pleadings and 1 page from theirs. Write down 1 thing you need to add to your pleadings, testimony, interrogatories, or other discovery, or a question you might have about them. A word that maybe you see that thinks is giving away control, right? Or asking for waiving a right, even if you don't know them all yet. Just something that makes you feel that it's not right. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. As you're learning this material, your instincts will actually come alive. Because when you first start, you don't know the information, so you can't expect that to trigger. But after you learn it for a while, you start seeing things you didn't see before. Okay, so write down the 1 thing that you need to take out or change in yours, or something you need to address in theirs, right? Keep this in a journal or in a mind map, something that you'll have with you every time you do this, something you're not going to lose, okay? After about a week of doing this, then you can add 1 more thing to your morning and your evening routine, and keep doing this. You know, it takes 30 days to build a habit and routines, so do it for 30 days. And I'd recommend that if you really need to do a quick jump start, saying, whoa, Sherry, I don't have a year to do all this, or 6 months, or even 3 months, then I would recommend getting some of our sample motions, and we are releasing ebooks with each of the sample motions. So they're not there yet, but anybody who has bought the motions in the past, we are going to be sending those ebooks to as we release them, and anyone who gets them in the future. So you're going to want a motion and an ebook, and then you're going to use a page out of the ebook and 1 section of the motion, right? The ebooks are broken down into sections for the motions, and just add that to your morning or evening routine. And again, do the same thing. Make any notes of things that come to mind related to your case after you go through each step that I gave you. Then put it away. Okay? Put it away. Don't think about it again that day. You can think about the positive parts of it. Don't think about any of the negative. Okay? And if you're having trouble keeping up with this routine, then watch the video I made on having a bad day so you can get unstuck, because we all have bad days. And so watch that video. And again, I'll paste it on this video when we're done. So this will help you to remember the discussion on the 3 simple steps and how to even get to those 3 simple steps. And it was the one that started with number 1, get up and make a cup of coffee or tea. Okay. Your actions condition your mind as much as your positive thoughts. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Thomas Paine turned an internal uprising into a revolution for independence. And it all started with learning that each individual was entitled to equality back then, right? That was his whole thing about all those rights he wrote about. They were all entitled to equality, and his writings got the people to fight for that equality. So our writings do the same for you now in this situation. So you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity just as you are. So let's get to work. You can find me at www.fixedfamilycourts.com/membership, and I look forward to you jumping in there sometime soon. And if you're there already, say hi to me and let me know, and we'll keep working. Thanks, guys. See you next time. I'm going to look and see if I can see any questions. I'm sorry, I can't see anything on the YouTube one right. Okay, there we go. Okay, here's our comments. So Yvonne, if you're still with me, I know this was a really long live. Thank you for showing up. And Robert, hello. Let's see. What does Yvonne ask? She said she was told to ask for a gal because they were going to listen to her children's wishes and needs. They wanted 50-50 time. The gal ignored them. Yeah, unfortunately, that happens a lot. So any of you watching these videos, read some of these comments that parents are leaving because those two are gold nuggets. Those are to help you suffer less, to see the things that maybe you don't see now, or maybe you haven't experienced then, or maybe you weren't believing until things just started going wrong in your situation. So momentum says, motions and hearings bring up stress. They've been on supervised visitation for 16 months. Wow, momentum. Really sorry that's happening. That is one of the horrible things. I'm sorry about the clothing, guys. This is my New Year's outfit. They bring up horrible, or they use this for no reason. Supervised visitation. They just throw people in it, and you don't have a way to get out of it. That's the really bad part, is there's no end to it. And to get in to modify something is a really high bar, right? Momentum, you probably know. You've probably tried to modify multiple times. It's just a horrible thing for them to put fit parents into, because there's not really much you needed to change in your life. So nothing gets considered as a change legally that qualifies for the change that they need to make a modification. So that ends up being how you associate with your children. And so many parents that we know, they end up not having a relationship after a while. As those kids get older, they don't want to go and sit in some room, or some of them now have you sit at Denny's or a restaurant, but it's just not natural. You don't get to do and experience all of those things that occur just by being in a home and not having to really sit there and interact the whole time. How many of you spend 2 hours, sometimes that's usually like the length of time of a supervised visit, right? Just focused on interacting with your children. Nobody does that nowadays. The kids have cell phones. They're distracted constantly. They're and if you break their routine, they just get angry with you. So the judges put you in these positions, and that's why you really need to know this stuff from the beginning, because it's so hard to get the other stuff undone. And yeah, while it might be possible, the kids grow up and it takes so long to go through the process. It's just not worth not learning this stuff, right? So hopefully what you're reading is going to convince you to take some risk, or what you are being told are risk by your attorney. We feel it's more risky not to use your rights, because we've seen so many bad things happen because they ignored rights. So somebody asked for, what's the name of the movie? It's called Marriage Story. Baumbach created it. They're saying it's one of his best movies right now, and it's actually a couple going through divorce, and so they touch on several things that people experience going through the divorces. So people who haven't been through it, it's another way for you to educate them and say, look at what these attorneys are doing. They don't go into a lot of detail on it, really, but they do say some key things in it, and you can kind of like use that to launch a conversation with maybe somebody You want to educate on the issue that maybe before they weren't open to talk about, but in the context of a movie, they might talk about it. So use it as a teaching tool. Okay, so let's see who else. So Yvonne says she represented herself for a year until they forced them through a 5-day trial. Also, unfortunately, common and very expensive. And when she lost custody. She's had a hard time emotionally handling ever going back to court pro se again. I can understand that, Yvonne, but I can honestly tell you that hands down, almost every hearing that I went to and did myself, and that I've heard other parents tell me that they've done, they have gotten at least the same or better results. Now, we're not talking about technical things like the property division, the quadros, things like that. Those, you can get screwed very easily on that by doing those wrong. But when it comes to the rights to your children, there's not a whole lot you can mess up by just telling them no, just rejecting their demands. Not a whole lot you can mess up with that. So hopefully that will make you feel a little more comfortable. You don't have to be a pro at even our information. So I don't want to make you all think that you've got to become expert like Ron in this. You don't have to become, so good at this material that you can go on to, some talk show and talk about all your rights. No, you just need to be confident that what you're saying no to is actually backed up by your rights. So you're using your rights as a crutch, Yvonne. Am I making sense to you guys? You're using these rights to give you that support that you're not getting from the attorney, and that and for the protection that you're not getting from the judge, and to help you see the choices that you actually have that they're not telling you. Okay. So Momentum says, this year I'm rocky and I'm fighting. Well, great, because they didn't actually give you a whole lot more to lose. If you've been on supervised visitation, which could also be very expensive, they kind of, used up their, or they gave away their fighting tactic, right? So I don't know what else they would really have to hurt you with. Some parents don't go back because they're afraid that maybe they're not paying child support, and if they go back, they're going to attack with that. So they take your kids in hopes that you're not going to go back, or you might be afraid of an increase, right? Maybe they didn't hit you with the whole amount that they could have, and so you don't go back because of that. So we're not going to judge you for not going back. We understand that you've got to protect whatever life you've been able to continue with since whatever orders they made, and sometimes going back under those conditions is not good for you. Well, there are other things you can do, right? So in the green book, in fact, the introduction in the first chapter talks about there's two paths. There is the judicial path, and then there's the legislative path. So you can use the political path as well to help you get things changed. And even if it doesn't benefit you specifically, think about it benefiting your children down the road when they have children. So benefiting your grandchildren. And I know that might be a hard place for you to go. And I'm not telling you to give up on, seeing and having your kids in your life. And by the way, a lot of times kids do go and move in with the parent they've been taken from. Sometimes they wait until they're 18. Other times, the other party starts to settle down. There are ways you can change how you communicate, and it'll work with some, not all. There are some exes or other parents, if you were never married, the other side, some will never, ever be reasonable no matter what. But what I like to do, because I get parents telling me the other side will never be reasonable, but yet I have helped them get out of court with that person they claimed would never be reasonable. So I would say get that out of your mind, even if they were horrible with you, like if they were constantly triggered, if you think they have some kind of behavioral personality disorder, bipolar, narcissism, whatever it is you're thinking that they have, either diagnosed or undiagnosed, um, don't position yourself to respond in ways that are responding to them based on those things that you either know or believe about them. Make your communication in a way that you would make it with a stranger, right? Somebody that you don't even know. Be kinder, um, be more approachable about things. I'm not saying you have to give in, but sometimes when somebody just feels heard, sometimes when you just change the way you react to them, it disrupts that pattern, right? And that's a whole nother other video that we could talk about another time, is disrupting those behavioral patterns and how there and you are triggering off of each other. Those aren't the kind of triggers we're talking about today. We're talking about the triggers that trigger your anxiety and your fear and flustering you and making you feel frustrated, flabbergasted, frazzled. So Robert, you said you're talking about whether or not your orders are final. You said your ex is violating your visitation and contact with your kids. That's a whole nother topic. But if that's stressing you out, which it stressed me out when that happened to me. It is confusing, you guys, sometimes to know whether or not an order is final or not final, right? If you don't know what legal method you can use to challenge it, because you can't challenge non-final orders. Your only avenue would be mandamus, or mandamus, as some people say. And that's only on certain things where it's considered there's no appellate process. So in other words, if they order that you're going to go to jail for child support, the reason that's a habeas or a mandamus if they haven't locked you up yet is because there's no avenue for appeal, right? You're going to go to jail. There's no, it's not just about time, but there is, that element is there. We're not lawyers, by the way, but we just try to help you understand pieces of this so you know where to go to get more information or what question to ask a lawyer. So you would look up habeas and you'd look up mandamus and look up the reasons each one are used, okay? And then you're going to have to ask a lawyer whether or not your order is final or not final if it doesn't say, or you don't know. You could even possibly, maybe ask the court coordinator to ask the judge to clarify if it's a final order. Make sure you communicate with the other side. We don't want ex parte communication here, but if you frame it as a clarification and you're pro se, they shouldn't hold that against you. Just make sure you let the other side know, or the other attorney. If the other side doesn't have an attorney, you've got to make sure you've copied the other parent when you email a coordinator, and never, ever, ever email the judge directly. Okay, they'll find you in contempt on that. Don't send letters. Don't send our book to them, and don't email them directly. Okay. So let me see if you guys have any other questions on here. And then Facebook, I just see a couple of comments. Claire, hi. Claire, if you're still here, I'm sorry that you've gone through this and that you're fully aware. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that you're looking for solutions. Stacy, you said you want to see it, so I guess that's talking about the movie. Marriage Story. Definitely watch it. I do have to admit I got a little bored on some parts. The second half was a little better, but some of the scenes and the way they did it, sometimes it just felt like they were just spewing out process, right? And movies, I want to be a little more entertained, so I was kind of hoping they'd demonstrate more, but it's still useful. Okay, don't listen to my review on those parts, but I'm just letting you know, if you get a little bored, it's still worth watching it to the end. Okay. And like I said, it's a good launching point to have discussions with others, and your legislators might have seen it. It's number 2 in the UK and it's number 3 in the US on Netflix. Oh, so it's on Netflix, you guys. Okay, so let's see. Thank you, Rolando. Okay, so I'm back to talking to YouTube. Thank you, Rolando. You were for saying that I'm so right on that. I really appreciate it. We work really hard to help all of you guys stay in this game and get your life back, and hopefully get your kids back in your life in a way that's more natural, right? Let's see if I see any other questions. I'm kind of scroll up here, see if I missed anything. Hi, Tony. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. And let's see who else. Locksoft knowledge. Okay, I answered yours. You were asking for the name of the movie. And let's see. Okay, so all right. So you want me to email you? I will do that. And okay, I think I got to everybody's question. If anyone else has any more, let me know. You can reach me at my website at fixedfamilycourts.com. Contact us. It's /contact us, or just go to the page and go to the top, and there's a contact tab. Okay, send an email through there. I know that sometimes the responses can be slow. We have a lot that we're trying to get to, a lot of people we're trying to respond to. So if it's an emergency, there's a deadline you have coming up, please put that in your contact to us so we can prioritize things. You're all important. And so I do want to make sure you all get something that you can be working on, so you're not wasting any time at all. So if nothing else, you know you can get into the membership. You know you can access our materials. You do not have to wait on us. And I do want to tell you, we're not going to do all of this for you. We're going to keep developing our materials. We've spent years in the past where we were having to do so much just to get people to the point where they were confident to use it. But we've gotten that broken down now in the motion samples and these ebooks that are coming out and our courses online. That's broken down enough now to where you should be able to put this together yourself. You do not need to go spending thousands of dollars and having others do it for you. Put it together and be confident in what you're creating. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can go back and compare with what we wrote. And as long as you're not going off topic and you're understanding what the terms mean, and we have terms section in the membership site, so you can look that up. You can look it up in a law dictionary. There's Black's Law Dictionary. As long as you understand what you're presenting, then it's better than not having anything at all, and it's better than the way you were going through it before. So just keep that in mind. All right? And all of you, Happy New Year, and let's do this.